However do you need me? However do you want it? Okay, okay. Listen, you have made it to another day with me. Yes, I'm so excited that you are here. Check it out, check it out, check it 1 2 1 2. Is my mic on? Listen, today we have a guest and we're going to be talking about parenting with mental health. Now, there is two sides to this. Sometimes you can have parents that have mental health challenges. And then, of course, you have parents who are caring for children, parenting children with mental health challenges. And I would have to say, because during story time, because I got one. Listen, because of the traumas and the challenges and the issues that I've had in my earlier years. And, we talked about this on the radio before. So, and we've talked about it because my book is out there and everything. But having been a experiencing sexual trauma for 10 straight years from 6 to 16, that did a number on who I was. And that wasn't just the only trauma. You're talking about verbal abuse, physical abuse, and things of that nature. And those were developmental years. Now, I wasn't into therapy, didn't know therapy. Therapy wasn't even a thing that was talked about in my household or in my culture, in my environment. So, baby, it was just like, if you crying, shut it up. Like, get over it, build a bridge and get over it. Or, you better stop acting like that. That can't be. So nobody had navigated me to the next level before I became a teenage mom. And so, by the time I was probably in my 30s, was when I started, quote unquote, getting diagnosis as PTSD and depression, and anxiety didn't come until my son passed away. But that was, of course, these things. And even with my depression, it was seasonal depression. They were triggers. So it wasn't a clinical diagnosis, but I was still depressed. And I still was having challenges emotionally and even sometimes psychologically, but I was a mama. And we don't realize some of the things that we pass on to our children with just trying to navigate through our own traumas and helping our children navigate through theirs. And with having said that, understanding from a medical standpoint, right, that some letters, because we know last show we called these, letters ADHD, ADD, ODD, OCD, things, some letters, they can also not only be a neurological challenge, but also a generational and a spiritual transfer and challenges as well. So what I did was had children with ADHD. And I actually had one child who was dually diagnosed. So understanding that not only did they have the letters, but they also struggled with substance abuse. And having doing that was very, very challenging. So our guest today, right, is going to engulf all of that, because not only did I birth those children with the letters and challenges, I adopted my grandchild, who also was one who I had to parent with a lot of challenges and diagnoses. So we're going to talk about that a lot today, because there is such an impact. Because first and foremost, like I said before, parenting is so rewarding. Like, it's the best job ever to have. It is. It really is. Like, I can't imagine. And my heart goes out to anyone who has not personally birthed a child or had the opportunity to be a part of raising a child, whether it was your niece or nephew, or through adoption, or through school, like a teacher or counselor, therapist, or whatever. My heart goes out to you, because it is a most rewarding job. At the same time, it is the most stressful dang job ever to have. Because guess what? You can't call out sick. You don't get no PTO. You don't get no planned vacations. Baby, it is a 28/8 job. Let me see, 24/7. No, 25/8 job. Like, you are never off. And God forbid if you do take a minute to go off, what's going to happen when you come back into the game? And it's funny, but it's not funny. Talking about just story time, right? So my last one, my little one with her letters, I'm like, listen, I am older in my years, right? So, sometimes the sister need a nap. And I'm like, I'm not really afforded that nap sometimes. Why? Because my lovely baby, and I really do love her, like, with everything. Sometimes if I go to sleep, she's so helpful. I'll wake up and, honey, she done built forts, made tents, painted the ceiling, cooked food, fed a dog, and we don't even have a dog. But I'm like, and so I wake up and I'm like, Lord, what am I getting ready to wake up to? Because it's never a dull moment. And I'm like, so the pressures of even having to do that psychologically and emotionally can also take a toll on you physically doing this parenting game. So I'm excited to bring on this guest today, because not only does she have the professional background to talk about some things, but she also now has the experience of parenting as well. I've known her, oh my gosh, now this is crazy, right? So I'm about to date us because I've known Reverend Phillips, Dr. Phillips, Nikki. I've known Nikki probably since, oh, I know it's probably been at least 35 plus years. And I'm going to read her bio. But what she did not put in her bio is that I used to stand beside this young lady singing. And when I tell you she can blow, I'm like, ugh. Now, mind you, I'm older than her. But I used to be like, when I grow up, I'm going to be just like her. I'm telling you, her voice is just everything. And I'm like, honestly, I used to stand beside this young lady. And like I said, I might ask her to tell her age. She may or she may not. But I know she is younger than me, probably about 10 years younger than me or so. But that means when we were on the choir and I was in my 20s, that she was a teenager. And when I tell you, I was just like, when I grow up, I want my voice to be just like that. So let me give you a little bit about Nichole Phillips, our guest for today, licensed professional counselor. Also, Reverend. So we have Reverend Nichole Phillips is the owner of Greater Community Clinical Services. And that's an organization that focuses on empowering the community to better understand, treat, and manage their mental health needs. She currently provides outpatient therapy services to adolescents and adults in the state of Virginia virtually. She has a virtual practice. So, hey, I'm going to tell her to give her information as well so that you guys can start hitting her up. She is a native of DC. I never held that against her because y'all know the whole Baltimore DC thing. She's always been my little sister. So, for all our DC Baltimore people, we can still love you. Love us back. Okay, Mo? All right. So let's see. In her spare time, Reverend Phillips enjoys traveling, cooking, watching cooking competitions, me too, game shows, and taking care of her 5 grandchildren that she has been co-parenting with her daughter for the past 2 years. So I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to bring Nikki on. Nichole, Reverend Phillips. I get to call her Nikki, but to others, she's Reverend Phillips, she's Miss Nichole, she's mommy, she's grandmommy, but I get to call her Nikki. So we're going to bring Nikki on the show. Applause, applause. Yay!
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Nikki.
Hey.
Now, listen, the crazy thing about this is, because you've known me for how many years, Nichole?
Okay, so you were actually right in your estimate. I think it has been, if I did my calculations, about 32 years.
Oh my gosh.
I don't mind giving my age because I'm happy to make it. I will be 45 on Saturday.
What? Go, Nikki! Happy early birthday to
Thank you. Thank you. It's funny because you're talking about standing next to me, girl. I was always trying to stand next to you. I was trying to get your voice. Nikki, I was like, wait a minute.
She's gonna lead a song like, ooh, what is it like the Trumps? Oh yeah, do it.
Yeah. You know, Baltimore choirs in the 90s, it was a thing. It was a situation, honey.
What?
To get it together.
Don't play with it.
Yeah, we didn't play with it. We didn't play with it at all.
Your voice is amazing.
Thanks, sis. I appreciate that.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
And I want to say for our listening audience as well, because see, they're just getting to know me, right? This podcast and show has, I'm picking it up, and God is doing amazing things with me with it. But my personality, you said you know me for 30-something years. Mm-hmm. Is this it?
It's it, y'all. This is who she is. 24/7. She is going to bring that life, that joy, that energy. If you need to get yourself together, she's going to be like, get yourself together. If you don't want the truth, don't ask. You know, she's gonna give it to you 100, but she's gonna give it to you in love.
I love
That's one thing I've always appreciated about you. Yeah, this is you. This is you all day with your cute self.
Wow, listen, my producer was just messing with me too, because I straight usually just have like a ponytail or might be. I was like, oh, I'm going. I said, because listen, listeners, somebody's son in 2025 is gonna be like, oh yeah, she the one. I'm just trying to tell you. So when y'all reflect back to these radio shows, and I'll be like, all of y'all are invited to my wedding, and it's like, well, you know what she was saying is somebody's son gonna be like, oh, she pretty with brains and creative and anointed and all that stuff. I'm just trying.
You a 10, boo, you a 10. Send his little brother my way when you find him. We can do a double date.
Listen, I'm trying to tell you, I sure will. So Nikki, as you heard the introduction a little bit, right? Because we're gonna talk about some good stuff, and and I'm so glad that you are doing the work that you're doing, right? So, first of all, I do want to share with the listeners, because this is such a uniqueness to your story. The fact that your daughter is not even your bio daughter. But I need people to understand, because I talk about titles and labels as well, right? We put labels and titles on stuff that then make us put certain characteristics to those titles and labels. And just because she's not a bio daughter will never or should never take away from the love an individual needs, the support an individual needs, the encouragement an individual needs, the impartation an individual needs. So one of the things that I talk to people about healing when they're having relationship issues and things of that nature is, let's take the titles off the table. Take the titles off the table, right? But even though the young lady is not your bio daughter, you also took the opportunity to parent and then grandparent her 5 children. And wait, listeners, listen, because if we want to talk about love, real love, I'm talking about some real love. Nikki has not birthed not one child, but was blessed.
I got a house full, honey.
Listen, but has a household. So I just want somebody who's listening to know, check this out. I adopted my granddaughter. I didn't even know, I didn't know it was nothing else to do. Like, what? That's just my child. Okay, she's in foster care, I'm gonna do it. But when we have non-bio families that step up to the plate and take it on, Nikki, to me, it takes us back to those days. And see, I go everywhere in this show. I just want you to know that. It takes me back to the days before the government stepped in and said, let's separate households. It takes me back to the days that it was like, I don't care where you came from, who you is, and I know that's incorrect vernacular, but if you need help, come on in my house. Come on in and let me take you in, because we're all a community, we're all a family, right? But I know it ain't been no crystal stair.
Baby. That is an understatement, honey. I mean, you know, my daughter and I story is a bit unique, but to be honest, darling, I knew there's a journal entry in my 8th grade journal where God spoke to me a long time ago. Y'all, I ain't deep or spooky. I'm telling y'all, I'm not gonna tell you this happened to me twice in my life and tell you 2 times it happened. And in my journal, I wrote that I was gonna grow up and have a house full of children I didn't birth. Thought I was gonna grow up and be a foster parent. So whenever anybody asked what I was going to do, I was like, okay, well, one day I know I'm going to be a foster parent. I did not know that I would run across my daughter on her 18th birthday through another program that I was doing professionally. And when she got into my car, this is the second time that I say, there are times when God speaks to us and speaks to our spirit, but there are sometimes when it's almost so clear it's audible. That happened to me 3 times. And this is one of them. When she sat in my car, I heard something say, you're going to have a very special role in this young woman's life. Pay attention. And I repeated, pay attention. Now, if you hear my daughter tell this story, it's even funnier, because she was like, this girl picked me up to help me with my mental health, but she ain't here talking to herself. So we both laugh about this story. She was like, girl, you was just over the top. I said, girl, because I was hearing people talk to me about you, which was so crazy. And so I said, okay, well, pay attention to you. So tell me about yourself. And she started telling me about herself. And, you know, we just had this crazy connection just from the jump. And when we mapped out our timeline of just the places I've worked, because she grew up in the foster care system, and the
Wow.
places that she had been, we missed each other 3 times by like a week or 2.
Wow.
So there were 3 distinct. So the benefit of that, you guys, is that when she grew up, now she's 18 and she's telling me about her best friends and all the people that she knew in the system. Usually when you have your children, you know their friends, right? I was able to communicate with her about all of her friends because I had met her friend. I knew her best friend. I'd had her in one of my group homes, and so we were able to kind of have that. And we always joke about that. I said we were looking for each other.
Wow.
And I actually had to let her go from the program that I met her in because she was wilding. She was 18. And I thought I failed. I thought I failed the assignment. And I
wait a minute, Nikki. I have to interject for a second because that right there is a say that moment. You thought you had failed the assignment. Do you know how many parents out here, including, let me raise my hand. I'm just saying, you were there, I believe. When I laid my firstborn to rest, I thought I had failed the assignment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, and I really want to just stop right there for a minute because I need somebody to know that, and I'm always making little analogies and parables or whatever the case may be, but if you still got the ability to write, you still get to change that story. You went to the assignment. That was just a test and a prerequisite. That was a quiz for you to get to the next assignment. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Okay. And it needed to happen that way because I needed to disconnect from her professionally. Right? And so, there are ethical rules or all these other kind of things. I was not a therapist yet. I was not licensed, but I was working in the mental health field, just doing like helping people in the community. And 6 months later, I saw her again. She was disheveled and between places, and she was very pregnant.
Another interjection, though, because you'll probably have to come back because, again, it's dear to me, the foster care system, right? And the reason why she's 10, but of course at 8, she created the affirmation sky bags because 18, you're out. So that was I just wanted to, pause there as well, because we gotta, and I don't like making blanket or general statements like this, but we have to be better and do better. Because at 18, especially if this child doesn't have life skills, doesn't have a support network, it happens just how you said. You now run into an 18-year-old disheveled child that is like, I'm not an adult, but I'm not a child. So
she had the freedom of an adult with the wisdom of a teenager. And a lot of times in Virginia, the statistics here, because I had to do this project while I was in school, it's something like 70 or 80% of the girls, when they get released from the foster care system, end up pregnant within their first year.
Wow.
The statistic is very, very, very high. And, when I saw her and I saw that she was pregnant, we started talking again, started giving her resources. A couple months in, we just got really close. And, she actually chose me. She called me on the phone one day and said, I need to ask you something. Please don't give me a quick answer. Just think about it. Because keep in mind at this time, I'm like 30, okay? I don't know nothing about parenting or parenting a young adult, much less parenting a young adult.
So we talking about
She's 18. Okay, we 12 years apart, all right? So she said, will you be my mom? And I said, what? And she said, will you be my mom? Her mom, her bio mom at the time, was dealing with her own issues. She was still incarcerated. And she said, I don't know anything about being a mom. I'm about to have this baby and I don't know anything about being a mom. I can't do that. I can't be a mom without a mom. I need a mom. And it really made me think, because what we don't think about in the foster care system when these babies do come out at 18 and get pregnant, when you have your first child and something goes wrong, because nobody knows, the first person you call is your mom. The baby's up too late. I need a break. The baby can't sleep. What do I do? I'm not breastfeeding right. You on the phone with your mama. And when you don't have a mom,
somebody who is older with some experience that can pour some wisdom into.
Right. And so, when she said that, I told her, give me the weekend, because I didn't want this just to be a title.
Come on.
if I was going to commit to her in this role, I knew that I was making a lifetime commitment. And I did not want to go into that quickly. I sat and I thought about the pros and cons. I don't think I fully understood the depths of what we would
I
go
think
through
people
over
who
the last.
pregnant and married don't fully understood parenting. Come on with that.
Yeah. And so, but I said yes. And, we've been rocking this out. My grandson is now about to be 15.
Whoa.
He is my heart. He knows it. And the 5 that have followed him are also, I call them all my heartbeats. But it has been a journey because, the topic today, it needs to be talked about because there's so many parents out here that are parenting children with mental health diagnoses. And no one tells you about the real challenges of it. No one talks about, the times I had to put her in a hospital. No one talks about, getting crazy phone calls in the middle of the night and being afraid that she had took something and was trying to harm herself. Nobody's talking about, substance abuse issues that have followed. Nobody's talking about all of these things, right? There's no manual of support.
Nobody's talking about the burnout because it's
Yeah.
happens. And again, being on the other end of now, like I said, you've been there. I'm so glad we get a chance to have this conversation and stuff like that because you've been there when my firstborn was 9, 10, 7, right? And
So,
I've been telling people, even though they was like, oh my God, he was so lovely. He was. But he was a dang handful. And he was before we got the ADHD diagnoses, right? He was just all over the place all the time. And I'm 18 and I didn't have that mother. You know what I'm saying? I didn't.
Right.
So my church family was the people who helped me. I really recall hearing some of the Deaconess Lavinia Dorsey had become my surrogate mom. And I know that people in the church would say things like, baby, I'm praying for you. And I'm scratching my head because I'm like, what? I'm 19, 20. I got this child 20, 21, whatever. He running all over the place. And I'm like, I don't get it. And I want to say this, and we'll go back to what you were saying when we're talking about thinking that we failed the assignment. Sometimes we also can kind of get into a guilt trip because sometimes it becomes so heavy dealing with children with mental health illnesses. It's like, can I really do this? Or they get on my nerves, or I'm burnt out. That and we have to tend to that caregiver as well. And I'm just gonna say this, and I'm gonna let you go because we're both in the mental health profession. We're in the therapeutic counseling profession. I know for myself, I used to shoot myself in the foot too because I knew too much academically and professionally. But then, of course, a doctor who has himself for a patient is a fool. So I'm like, okay, I got to get help for her. I can't be her mama and her therapist. I can't. But it was just so much because I was like, am I making a difference? I'm helping people in their families and their lives as impartation strategists. And I got a child right here that sometimes I'm sitting on the edge of my bed playing with bubbles on my lips. Like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this,
And I do. And that has been part of the struggle. There have been days, especially when I first got to, so I didn't get all of them at the same time.
Oh, because we don't go on that journey of how you got 5 grandkids and okay.
Girl, I got the first one when he was 5. He asked to come live with me when he was 3. He just said, Nani, I'm coming to live with you. And I said, well, baby, what about your siblings? He said, they'll be fine. They can visit.
Well, wait a minute. Go back to the story. So the one that's 17 is her first child.
The one that's 15 is the first. So he'll be 15 in February. So I have a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, and there's a 2-year-old that is with her still. So there are actually 6 of them.
Pray for her. Your mind.
So, my now 12-year-old I've had since he was 5.
Okay.
But that was solely his choice. He wanted to come stay with me. There's a whole nother story about our connection too. I thought I was going to have him as a baby. And then he just chose. That's just what he chose. And I told him, I said, well, if your mom says it's okay, you can come live with me, but you have to be in school because, girl, that daycare expense is real. So on his 5th birthday, he said, okay, I'm 5. Because I used to say, when you're 5. He said, all right, I'm 5. Can I come stay with you? And it just so happened that she went through a bit of a crisis herself that summer, and we had to start to place them. And so he came, literally, I went to just see about the situation at an aunt's house. And I said, well, when do you want me to transition and take them? But she said, you can take them now. What? Oh, honey, I wasn't prepared to be a parent today. He came with nothing. He did not come with clothes, nothing. This was a time that I was between jobs. I asked God, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm very clear that this is what we're about to do. And I took that baby home, and that was the start of our journey. A couple of years later, the other kids have been placed in foster care. She had custody of my now 5-year-old. We had another mental health crisis. And I made the decision then to get the then baby. She was 3 months old.
Mm-hmm. So now you have a 5-year-old and a 3-month-old.
Mm-hmm. At this point, I have she's 5 and 12. So now at this point, I have a baby, an infant, and a 7-year-old. That infant took something out of me, honey. I'm gonna tell you something. I tell people, having an infant, God bless you mamas that's out there over 40 with these infants. Bless your heart, honey. That sleep deprivation hit different. When I was a little older, I was not prepared. I remember being at work crying. It's because I was so exhausted, and I would just be sitting in my office crying. And I actually took her to work with me. I'm glad that I had the job that I was able to do so. I put a nursery in my office, and that baby went to work with me every day. I mean, we figured it out. I got her on a Wednesday. I got both my kids on a Wednesday. It's something about Wednesdays. But I got her just as suddenly. Phone call from the hospital. We have your daughter here. She asked us to call you. And I said, where is her baby? Is her baby with her? She's a baby. We're talking about a 2.5-month-old. They said she's incoherent, but she didn't mention anything about a baby. Honey, when I say I flew and broke several laws on the way to get to that house to figure out what was going on with that baby, and I just packed her bag and went down to the court. Literally, I left the house and went to the court and petitioned for custody. And I'm glad that I did, because you brought up that part about me being a non-biological parent. That has been very much a challenge, because I don't have any legal rights to these children biologically. So
not even to this day.
Oh, now I do. I have all the paper. I have all the paperwork, honey. I have all the receipts.
Yeah, because when they told me, they was like, well, you can just be a what is it, a caregiver, or what is it? Kinship care, right? Because I was a grandmother. I said, let me tell you something. She will not navigate this system for the rest of her life playing ping pong. Nope, draw up the adoption papers, because this is her first, well, not her first, but this will be her final stop. We not playing all them games. And like you said, baby, I was 44. She was 20 months. My next to her child was 10 years older. So I'm like, my first look, having given birth at 18, I'm like, oh, finally I can, I couldn't even get the word breathe out before I was like, wait, hold on. How I about an infant? That ain't right. That's not what I was looking.
That's not what we signed up for. Yeah, this wasn't. See, when I accepted the assignment, sometimes God has you accept the assignment without the details. I don't know if I would have known. I don't know. I don't know. It has been so much when I really tell our full story, even when we tell it to like other people who go to therapy, and I'm living it. So I'm just making it day to day. But when I really step back and look at all of it, and, all the things that we have been through just as a family, I'm so grateful that we are in the place that we are in now. And I'm grateful to God that
some things, Nichole, create better. Some things like this, right? These big things create us and mold us into the person that we were supposed to become, or that we are. And we would have never gotten to this person if these things wouldn't happen. Now, for those who know scripture, it says that the Lord God hardened Pharaoh's heart to get out of Moses what he needed to get out of. So for that person who's like, I don't even understand why this is my lot, baby, it's only to create and develop you into the person that you are supposed to be, because you would never get there if you don't have these challenges. I'm thankful for everything. Like you said, if I go back, it's not something I would have picked up, But I would have
Right.
never said, "Oh, I would love to be sexually abused at 6." Like like you said, I didn't write that in my journal. That wasn't it.
Mhm.
But when I tell you, it made me resilient, and even
Mhm.
through those years of things, and again, I can't applaud you enough for stepping up to the plate. And I call people, and I'm gonna let you go. I tell people that we are all superheroes, and the superpower that we possess is the power of choice. So this was your choice. So continue to kind of navigate and take me down that journey with you, with the fact that now you have children in your home. You have this full home that, like you said, was already told to you before
Mhm.
this came. And it's funny that you said that, because when when my granddaughter's mom was pregnant with her, we had challenges in our relationship. And I sat on the edge of the bed and I said, God, please let me have my grandchild. And what I heard in my spirit was, oh, you will have your grandchild. Now, see, I always say God has a sense of humor, because I thought he meant, like, in the summertime, 2 weeks in the summer.
Right, right, right,
I did
right.
not know he meant straight up, you're going to
You
have.
gonna have them.
And I'm like, oh man. And the funny thing to that, because I'm gonna let you go, I always got stories. Again, my last child was when I had her at 34, which was old to me, only because I had had a child at 18. I
Mhm.
was just like, I don't ever want to have any children again. Like, I am done. Like, God, kitchen is closed. And I was like, just in case something want to jump off before I leave this hospital in 2004, tie my tubes. I don't want no kid. I don't know. Then later on, I'm like, okay, little physical problems came up, the woman issues. We're going to talk about that on the show
Mhm.
as well. So I got a full hysterectomy. And then here it is, I just adopted this baby. And I said, God, you got a sense of humor. He said, yeah, because you don't need a uterus. You don't need no tubes. If I want you to have children,
You
you.
will have them.
I was like, well, there you have it. Therein lies, again, that pen I was talking about, to begin to write another chapter or to change the narrative of the story. Go ahead, Nikki.
Yeah, and you know, I did not know. I was always very resistant to having all of these children.
Okay.
My friends now tell me that they saw this path ending here. They said, we always knew you would end up. And I said, well, I didn't. And my goal for the longest time was to try to support my daughter so that she could parent her children. That was always the goal. And this was not my desire to fulfill my need to be a parent. I've been accused of that in arguments before. We'll talk about the arguments and the resentments later. But, my ultimate goal, honestly, is just to break some of these generational curses. I ain't even gonna lie to you, because her family line has generations and generations and generations of trauma and abuse and molestation and substances um something had to happen to disrupt the bloodline. Something dramatic, something big. They had to get out of the environment. They had to get out of this cycle. And you know
And
when
how
I
fortunate that you were able to keep those children together. That's truly a blessing.
and let me tell you how God did that. Let me tell you, because you talk about how things fall apart to fall together. 2 months before this happened, so earlier in their life, I couldn't take them because I was living with a roommate. Um, she had a child, and then I had 2 children. So we had a full house. There was no space. Um, her mom became ill, and she had to move out in December. Um, right at Christmas time, my pipes burst in my walls. When I got them repaired, the landlord decided to sell his house abruptly in February. And I was devastated. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Where am I going to live? It's the middle of the school year. The very same day that my landlord came to tell me that he wanted me to move out of this house, I ended up putting a post on my neighborhood Facebook group saying, thank you guys so much. It's been wonderful. We've raised our children here. I really do love the neighborhood where I live. They do a lot of fun things. Christmas time is awesome. And so this person on the post just said, message me or DM me or something. And I'm like, all right. That was like, if anybody has a rental house, maybe you're selling, but you haven't sold yet. I just wanted to get my baby to the end of the school year without having to switch his school. That was all I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out that the very same day that my landlord told me that I had to leave, the place for the house that I'm currently lived in called her landlord to break her lease because she saw a mouse. So, now, I'm sure there could have been other reasons, because that reason just never made sense to me, that you would give up this beautiful home for a mouse, honey. Get yourself a mouse trap, some organ, a cat, honey. I got a cat, honey. We don't have no mouse problem. But it's out in the woods. It's an old wooded area. This area used to be trees. So, they come in. So it was just so crazy when I called him. He said, it's so crazy that you posted that, because me and my wife did not even want to go through like the search process and trying to find another tenant. He said, just come over this weekend. And I came over that weekend, loved the house. It literally was a block and a half away from where I was living.
Wow.
I could still maintain my relationships with my neighbors, who was also helping to keep my kids after school.
Because we're going to talk about that support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was able. I mean, I had to create a village for myself. Because keep in mind, remember, listeners, she said she met me in Baltimore. My family is still up there.
Wow.
I am 3.5 hours away from my support system. I landed here after college, and so, trying to do this without my support system has also been a huge challenge. And there were many days that I cried and said, God, I can't do it.
Because I was going to ask you.
There were many days.
I was going to ask you if that was a challenge, because
oh my gosh,
many parents, because we still have to talk about the mental health and, the dually diagnosed, even if they have it, but we have to talk about that piece. But parenting in itself is a dire need for support and village. So when you have all of these other dynamics that come with that, what has that, seriously, Nikki, how has that been for you? And what have you found to be your like major obstacles with
I'm laughing because it's been, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's been hard.
No, we've been out the box. That's what this is about.
It's been hard, but what I have learned is that support will always be provided. It might not always come from where you thought. And I had to learn how to be open to receiving help from wherever it came. Honestly.
I like that. Say that.
Yeah, because I wasn't, part of this whole complex is like, oh, I'm gonna do this. And when you mentioned being in the field, I just knew I could handle it, right? Even when I went before the judge to finalize their agreements, she asked me 3 times, am I sure? She said, now listen, I don't want you coming back here in 6 months telling me that it was too much. And I said, no, we're gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be fine. We got it. If anybody could do it, I got the professional stuff behind me. I'm a full therapist. I was an in-home worker that went into houses to help parents deal with their children. Surely I can handle this.
Ooh, you saying some stuff.
Surely I could. And what I found when I got into it is being a 10-hour-a-week support in a home like this and being the 24-hour parent is very 25. Different. 25. But it helped me build a different empathy for my clients that I used to serve that had children with mental health challenges, because I used to come with them real academic. I'm coming with my interventions, and I was always empathic, but it was from a different place. And now I can come at them from a very different place. Now I'm coming at them from a place of empathy and understanding. Even with my daughter, I gained a different empathy for her.
Yes.
Because I got to understand the stress of trying to care for 5 to 6 children and what that does to your own mental health.
Yeah,
so
listen,
she already started
straight sane, okay?
Girl, and she already started with some mental health deficits. We already started with her own trauma that is still being healed. When you add those levels of responsibilities, it triggers your own challenges. You're trying to provide for them. That's stressful in and of itself. What I told her when it finally came down to me assuming the final 3 was, I want to give you time. I will take this burden on myself to relieve you of it. And in this time, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get ourselves together. We're going to get this addiction under control. We're going to get you into some real mental health help. We're going to get you working. You know, she's back in the church. You know, we're really, really working on her relationship, not on some, you know, fake stuff. You know, and I know it was the right decision because these things are starting to happen.
So you know what people are going to ask you though, right?
What they going to
They're going to ask me. So in your intervention and being there for her, how did we get to 5 children?
because she's still a grown woman, and actually she was married.
I wasn't right because
Yeah.
I want that.
She got married.
Oh,
She got married at 19.
okay.
You know, and that's a story in and of itself because we also need to really talk about
Please, Nikki.
the conditions that we put people through in the name of ministry. There was a church that was supposed to be offering her housing because her and her, at the time, boyfriend, baby daddy, whatever you want to call him, they were homeless and living on the street. Now, this is before I got super involved. And we have to remember, we're dealing with a 19-year-old. She's just making her own decisions. She don't want me involved. You know, I'm an emotional support at this point. We're not at that point yet. We're still building. So she was perfectly fine with them being in this beautiful struggle. They found a program that was willing to provide housing and support for mental health wise, but they were not willing to allow them to live together because they were not married. And so what they advised them to do was either they were going to have to remain homeless or they went down and got married. Do I think they were ready to get married? They absolutely were not. They were not. And it didn't turn out the greatest, you know, but I understood her reasons because at that point she was surviving and she went to this ministry for help. And this is what they told her, you know, y'all can't be, they were a family, but you can't be together unless you get married. So you kind of force these young people into a decision just so they can have a roof over their head.
More.
Oh my God. So then she had another baby because at this point they only had one. So then, but she's having it with her husband now. Right. So now we're not talking about she out here with baby daddies. She's having children with her husband. That's what you're supposed to do. Right. Now there's 2. Then they had an incident. He was involved in some legal issues. She called me and said, you know, something happened, Mom, and we're afraid of retaliation. So we're leaving for Indiana. We're already in the car. They left in the middle of the night to go to Indiana. They moved halfway across the country. I told her then, listen, baby, I'm in school. I'm doing a lot of things. If you move to the Midwest, I can't get to you like I normally get to you. You know, we're going to have to figure it out. And then while she was there, she had 2 more children. And those children ended up in the foster care system up there because of some craziness that also happened. And I felt a lot of guilt then too, because I couldn't get to her.
Right.
Financially, I couldn't get to her. Schedule-wise, I couldn't get to her. And although I talked to her every day, and even after she lost the children, I would literally sit on the phone with her for hours while she just cried. And I just tried to encourage her. And it was very difficult, just trusting God with her away from me.
I know that's right. Now let's go back here because you mentioned this though, the stress.
Oh my.
Unhealed trauma and how it contributes to generational dysfunction. Now let me stop for a second because I started sharing a little bit about the dysfunction and how I brought my own dysfunction to my children. But as a superhero, I made the choice to become healed so that I didn't keep it going in each bloodline. But one of the things that we have to take into consideration is the fact that when you adopt or become caregiver of a child who's not yours, you're now also dealing with generational and bloodline curses that you don't even know about.
You don't even know what it is, honey.
So
you don't even know what's going to happen.
Herein lies
the child
that my son birthed, but I have his, but this ain't my child biologically. I mean, through my son she is, but so having to try to get information even maybe, or understand what her challenges are. Now, again, this is out the box. So I'm getting ready to hit y'all with a story that is going to blow your mind. Now, it is what it is. Now, y'all going to have to come over to my Patreon because that's getting ready to happen, because it's going to be real live. But I want you to go back to the stress of that. But what I was going to say was sharing my own story. My daughter's mom, my baby's mom, bio mom, had a history of incest and molestation, and also shared with me about her belts of prostitution and things of that nature. And herein lies, because it's real stuff, y'all, right? What we can't see doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? That generational dysfunction and pass it down. We may not really physically see it, but spiritually and experimental and behavioral patterns will show what they are, right? So herein lies this child. Now, I told y'all, mama gonna get a man, but no male interactions, things of that nature. Mindful of what I watch on television. Don't bring things. I mean, like you said, Nikki, you know me, so I ain't doing no crazy stuff. And at about 5 years old, I remember my other daughter had gotten the baby a little track phone for her birthday or for Christmas or something. And, she would get on her little track phone, this, that, and another. And we're talking about passing this stuff down, because this is what we're talking about, right? The dysfunctions and things, right? So I happen to get her phone to be like, she's talking to her little friends or whatever. And I got her phone, Nichole, and there were pictures of herself naked and her making videos of her private parts saying, I know you want it. And I'm going, first of all, that made me sick to my stomach, right? And then secondly, I'm going, where did this behavior come from? Because I'm like, I don't even understand, what is down this bloodline? What is going on that I have to hurry up and kill at the root, because I don't know where this is coming from other than spiritually. I don't know. Then it's like, okay, because of the time that she spent in the system, was she touched? Because that was an allegation. So I'm like, I don't know. And like you said, those stressors are your stressors, but then they're also, I want you to talk about, like you said, what that presents in the children that now you're caring for, knowing that they carry and bring their own trauma,
I do. And that's one of the things that I have to keep in front of me a lot, because with trauma comes behaviors.
Yes.
And, there have been times that I've been advised by family, friends, people say things to me sometimes like, you can walk away. Just give them back. Why are you doing this? Why are you stressing yourself out? And I'm like, I can't walk away. We are now in covenant. Right? And just because I did not birth this child from my body, there is nothing in me. I could not love her more if I had birthed her.
I know that.
We could not be closer if I birthed her. I talk to my daughter every single day. And one of the things that I've asked God for, because I knew, me getting these last set of children was not necessarily her choice. It was for, I won't say an ultimatum, but we were in the throes of some addiction stuff. And we had another major incident episode, had to get police and mental health people involved. And the babies got in my car and said that they said they're tired. And my oldest said, you know what happened today, Nani? I said, what, baby? He said, when the police came to the door today, I just started crying. And I said, wow, Bill, what's wrong? And he said, because I looked at my brother and said, Dad, we about to go back to foster care. And when he said that to me, I said, wow, God, I have this new house, extra space, extra rooms. I had a great job. Great. When I was like, oh, I think I can afford it. Or we won't be on the street. I feel like I could figure it out. All these things seem to align to make me ready to care for them. And a month before it happened, I had a dream that I was walking through my house, saying goodnight to everybody, and I was going to each room. And they were in each room like they're in each room now. So when it happened, I knew exactly where everybody's beds were going to go. I knew exactly who was going to be in what room.
Talk
Like,
about
it was so easy because I'd seen it.
hmm
And again, I ain't trying to be spooky or deep. I'm not that. But it was so clear. And I don't usually remember my dreams.
mm.
Now, my daughter was in this last room, which is currently my office. Me and the Lord are still in communication about that. Um, but I knew for the kids, I knew where the girls were going to be, and I just really went on Amazon and looked for what I saw, and one of my friends bought bunk beds and,
Mm.
people came out and tried to help, me get it together real quick. Because remember, I got them in the middle of the week. The one thing about getting children the way that I got them is I didn't get the benefit. And I'm sure you understand this for yourself too. I didn't get 9 months to prepare myself mentally, physically, or financially for a child. Each child that came to my home came that day.
Well, let me go here, Nikki, for a second, baby. I didn't adopt my child because she was in the foster care system. And I mean, well, I did. My son was still alive when I went to get her from out of the foster care system. And I was doing just what you were doing. I'm just being that person in between to get her out of the system, to give her back to her dad.
Yep,
And
that was the
many don't
plan.
even know that was the plan, that I'm reuniting my baby with his baby. But I just happen
Mhm,
to be the person that's able to do that right now. So
mhm.
I left Baltimore and moved to California with nothing, knowing nobody, nothing, just to go for this whole purpose. I'm like, okay, I get this baby. I come back to Baltimore. Her daddy gonna have her baby. Long live every day. I'm getting ready to go. I did not know he was going to pass away.
Right.
So now, like you said, I didn't prepare for this.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got him in the middle of the week.
Got him in the middle of the week. Oh, actually, it was the beginning of the week, and it was the day after my now 9-year-old's birthday, because I'd seen her the night before, and I knew. So one of the things about parenting a child with mental health, for anybody that's out there, that's really important, is to understand your child's patterns
Yes.
and their triggers.
Yes.
There is a pattern. I know how many days she can go off meds before she gets manic. I know what she looks like when she's in an episode, and I have now learned what she looks like in an episode that is substance induced by her particular substance of choice. In the beginning, it was hard to catch that. She had an addiction for years before I caught it, because it looked like a mental health episode.
Mm.
And for, I would say, at least a year and a half, I would say we were really in the throes of it. And I didn't know it because I thought we were just, and so did her doctors, because we hadn't revealed it. And the substance that she was taking cannot be picked up on a drug screen. So when
Mm.
they would do a tox screen, they would say that she wasn't on anything. But she, in fact, was very much on something. And so, and maybe I should just tell y'all what it is, because I know nothing about it. So maybe y'all can be educated too. Corseed and HBP blood pressure cold pills.
What?
Girl, I ain't lying to you. Apparently, when they are taken in large doses, they mimic the effects of PCP.
Whoa.
It becomes a very strong hallucinogenic. For her, she would have religious delusions.
Wow.
And it was always really interesting, because when she was in her delusional state, though, she would always would be like, God is sending me messages. There was always a part of her that still wanted to connect, but it was just always distorted.
Mhm.
Right. And she could not tell reality. Even for a couple of days when she would start to come down, I would talk to her in the hospital. She would say, reality and what's real and not real is still kind of hazy. It would take some days when that comes out your system to even get a handle back on reality. So they were trying to diagnose her with schizophrenia.
That's exactly what that.
And her bio mom has schizophrenia, so that wouldn't have been a stretch. But she does not have schizophrenia. These were substance-induced psychosis. And so there was one time in particular, she came to my house. It was the day of my Richmond parents that adopted me here, their 50th wedding anniversary. We're getting ready for a party. She had not slept in like 6 days.
Wow.
And so I called her. I said, listen, just come here. She said, Mom, I just want to get in your bed. I said, all right, come get in my bed. I'll take the kids out. I got a couple errands to run. I'll at least give you a nap. We'll come back, just stay at my house. At least I know you're safe. You're in my house. I'm going to go to this party, come back. That was the plan. I was gone for 5 minutes and my roommate was calling me. My baby was in a full-blown psychosis, screaming and hollering, I want my mama. And she would go between, I want my mama, to God, I thank you, to stripping her clothes off, to, I mean, it was wild. And that was the second time that I had to hospitalize her. I said, listen, call the ambulance. I'm coming right back. But when I hospitalized her on the way out, she handed me the box of pills. And she said, tell them I took these. And I threw them on my bed and I said, girl, don't nobody care about no cold pills. And I let the ambulance take her. The next morning, as God is my witness, I was sitting at my kitchen table. I don't even know how this magazine got in my house. I don't even subscribe to magazines. There was a People magazine on the cover. It said, a beloved youth pastor accidentally kills his wife under the influence of popular cold medicine. And in the bottom was the picture of the same box that girl just handed me. So I sat and read this article, honey, about this youth pastor in Texas that took too much of this pill and stabbed his wife to death, had no recollection of it, came back to himself, called the ambulance and said, I did a terrible thing.
Now, let me go here with you, Nick, because this is the sad part. Because like you said, we're putting things on Front Street to make people aware. I never really understood why you had to be carded to get cold medicine. Now
Sure.
we know. But this is the crazy thing, right? That's another show, whatever, but the FDA knows. And that's why it's done. And those are little hidden things that it's like at the end of the day, like you said, you and I, naturally people who don't know, it's like, what are you talking about? But it's well aware. And the crazy thing about it is understanding scheduled meds, understanding what they made, whatever. Like you said, something that is hidden in plain sight, you would never think. And what you brought, because I want to just kind of put that back out there, what you brought light to and made aware of is that the psychosis can be induced by such a thing. And, and I know, we'll have to come back at another time and do some more things, but that misdiagnosis or not seeing something like that, and then we give labels, right? And then we give more medication that is not a good function for what we've misdiagnosed. That's some crazy stuff, right?
That's exactly what happened.
And I want you to finish that story, but then I kind of just want to ask, because of this and because of the experiences, what effects, if any, have they had on the children? Nikki said, wait a minute, how long your show?
Girl, I'm about to say, how long you got? So when we talk about generational things, the effects have been a lot, because not only do we have I didn't learn about how bad things were until later. And because it was substance induced on top of mental health, these babies survived. Now, I will say this about my daughter. The great thing about her that I will always applaud her for is, even in her worst state, she tried very hard to protect them from it. So even when they were going to hotels and homeless and doing whatever, she made it fun. They don't have negative memories of those times. They talk about times when mama would take us outside and we would lay on blankets and look at stars. And when she would make up games and they would bounce off beds in the hotel room. My daughter is an excellent mom. But she struggles with her own mental health. And like you said, when you don't have that support, and she doesn't have the support of her bio family, because that's part of the dysfunction.
Yes.
So she can't, those relationships are being healed now with some of them, but at the time they were non-existent. And so, the children, they've been in foster care twice. It was some of them. The one that I have has never been in. The two that I have never been in the system. My older three that I just acquired, the boys have been in twice, and my baby girl has been in. Yeah, because she's been in, she was a baby the first time they went in. She's been in there once. They were blessed with amazing foster parents, and they were able to stay in a stable home for most of that 2 years that they were there. The first foster parents that they had actually were around the corner from me.
Wow.
I was able to build relationships with them and found out that they were my distant cousins.
Wow.
Um,
Listen, this was
girl,
all your purpose plan.
I'm trying to tell you how crazy this story is. People would not believe me if they didn't live it with me. I'm like, yo, this has been wild. The second set of foster parents was a little bit more challenging. They lived a little further away and I didn't get to see them as much. So then I had to petition the court to try to get visitation rights because, again, I'm a non-biological relative.
Mhm.
And at first, they would not acknowledge me as kinship.
Mhm.
So the other crazy part about that is, I'm gonna blow your mind. When I got the children that I did get, they said, well, it's gonna be okay financially because, you know, you can apply for TANF for them, not as yourself, but as them individually, you'll get support. They denied me from any support because there is a loophole in Virginia that says that non-biological relatives are not eligible for any type of financial support through that program.
I need y'all to
I did
listen.
not I did
need
not
y'all to
find
listen.
that out until after I already got the children,
I
okay?
need y'all to listen. But I think if you had known before, you might have had another choice. But I know your heart. But at the same token, I need y'all to listen because when I say that, even though I'm raising my granddaughter, and I don't even know if I would have made another decision, but when I tell you talking about a labor of love, right? That's love. Because that's like, I ain't gonna have no money. But is it about the money? Because that's something that's got to be said. Is it about the money, or is it really about making a difference and an impact on a family, which makes an impact on a community, which makes an impact on our world?
Right. Well, I never expected to get anything in the beginning until they told me that I could before I was going to take them permanently.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of misinformation provided. I even started the foster care process to become a foster parent to get them out of foster care while they were in it.
Mm-hmm.
And halfway through the training, they slipped in that they could not guarantee when it was over that I would get her. They may give me someone else. And I said, well, sweetie, I'm only here to get her out of the system. You know, because I'm a non-biological relative, I figured if I become a foster parent, we'll just make me a placement. We'll rock this out for a little bit. Let my baby get herself together. We're gonna rock it out like that. And once they told me that, I said, well, I don't have the time for that then. Now, what's crazy is I have been trained as a foster parent years ago. I went through a formal training process because my roommate at that time got her daughter, which is now her daughter. She's grown. So I had been trained, but your question was about the children.
Mm-hmm.
So because of their trauma, I have 5 children in my home. Some of them have PTSD diagnoses. All of them have some form of attention deficit, some of the letters, ADHD and ODD. I have 2 that suffer with bouts of depression. I've had a couple, my 2 older boys, both have had to been hospitalized before for suicidal thoughts or actions or gestures. My oldest granddaughter, the 9-year-old, I see more of the separation anxiety with her. She really struggles with transition. She gets very emotional whenever people have to just leave her. And I'm talking about like normal stuff, like a friend at school had to move and she came to the car sobbing and devastated. Like her emotional reactions to any type of loss or separation is really huge.
Nikki, you had that with 5 children. I have that with 1. Literally everything that really.
Yeah. So, I deal with that. She has tantrums and outbursts sometimes that are uncontrollable, where she's throwing stuff around the room and screaming at the top of her lungs. And, if something gets triggered, thank God we have not only had like 1 in the last year. Those have gotten so much better. Some of my children struggle with like bedwetting and like enuresis, and they could not find a medical problem. We believe that is also trauma induced.
Absolutely.
So we are working on, or have been working on that. And then we have the behavior issues. My oldest is currently suspended till 2025. So we have some, impulse control issues, and, we've done therapy. And I'm like you, I got to the point where I was like, I can't do this. I can't be their therapist and their grandma, because now I need support. So I actually had to locate the same services that I provide for my children and then learn how to be a client.
Listen, Nikki, wait a minute, stop right there for a second, because I too receive my services. And
Girl,
it had to be a unique individual because,
yep,
again, knowing that I know what I know, I do what
I
I
know
do,
what I
my
need.
personality is what it is. I would have therapists tell me, so you gonna be your own therapist or you gonna come to me? And I'm like, okay, wait. So then I fall back. But then because I'm in the field, I'm seeing how they coming at me and I
Right,
know. So I'm like, but where you at is off. Like now
right,
people who might not know ain't gonna check you, but I'm about to check you because baby, where
exactly.
you at?
What we doing?
Wait,
What we,
because hey, listen,
what we
it
doing?
ain't story time, but it's story time always with me. I had one therapist when I'm going through, I'm telling her, giving her information. I'm just, and she said, now you're talking about off the wall. She goes, "Have you tried swinging?" I'm like, "Wait, what?
What?
What? Can you tell me what?" Sometimes our frustrations are best done in a sexual appetite that we're suppressing. Ma'am, you better be glad you virtual because West Baltimore probably would have made a mistake and came out to your
Wow.
office. Where are you going with that? I'm just saying. So, like you said, I had to find the ones who would be able to understand as well that really could get it. And I could literally, like you said, kind of. And somebody told me this, Nikki, because of what you do as well. She said you're really not, because I didn't care that I was getting therapy. She said you're getting peer interaction, and I didn't because it helped me change my perspective, because our perspective about things is such a huge thing. When I stopped like
Mhm.
trying to look for quote unquote a therapist, and I looked for a peer who could relate to me, understanding that I understood, but could also then be able to provide me with the services and the help to navigate through this. That's what I needed. I didn't so much was looking for a therapist. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
let me add another layer that you may not know about me. I have also been diagnosed with depression since I was 14 years old.
Mhm.
And PTSD. I've dealt with it my entire life. And one of the reasons that I got into the mental health field was because I felt like in our own community, especially in the African American community, we're better now, much better now. But in
Yes.
the 80s and
I'm
90s,
talking about even older people, but go
when
ahead.
nobody talking about mental health,
Mhm. No, you just
if
gotta
you
read
had something going on, you weren't supposed to talk about it.
at all.
What happened in your house stayed in your house, and
Absolutely.
all of that stuff. And I was a high performing, high functioning
Oh,
depression.
the people on the radio
So
can see my
on
hand,
the
but I
outside,
hear you. That's
I
me.
got great I got great grades.
Mhm, mhm,
I was involved in church. You saw me all the
mhm,
time.
mhm.
I
Very
was
articulate, very intelligent. So it's like, yeah.
so you're good, right? I was not good. I
Oh,
had lost my mom young. I had been molested by my dad when I was young. So there were just a lot of layers. So I'm fast forwarding now to say all of that to say, so now I'm parenting, and you talked about the stress of it. So now I have to learn how to manage the stress of my own mental health.
mhm,
And I quickly had to call somebody and say, I need medication.
mhm.
I am snapping. I'm in here snapping because what you have to understand about trauma, a lot of times people wonder why people go off so quickly that have been traumatized.
Mhm.
And what you have to understand is trauma raises your bottom threshold
Mhm.
for your tolerance for emotional things. So
Mhm.
when you say people are going 0 to 100, every time you experience a trauma, that bottom number goes up. So now you start 20 to 100. Then something else happens in your life. Now you 40 to 100. By the time you get to be an adult with all the trauma, you live at 80. You exist in an anxious state, and
Yes.
it doesn't take anything to get to 100 because you never got back down to 0. Your
Yes.
body is always on edge. Your mind is always moving. Even these things that you can't see, and you're functioning. And I had to really deal with, in order to properly parent these children and deal with the stress of it, I had to say, Nikki, you need to stabilize and make sure that your own mental health is okay. And with me being a therapist and with me being a minister, it wasn't something that I talked about with other people a lot because, it's that imposter syndrome. How
Yes.
dare you get in here and tell other people how to take care of their kids, how to take care of their mental health, how to take care of their spiritual?
Yes.
How dare you do these things when you go back home, you may be in the dark. for the
Yes.
rest of the day. You might
Yes.
not leave your house for a week. And because a lot of the stuff that I did, even then, was on my schedule, virtual or whatever, wasn't nobody looking for me. So I
Absolutely.
was able to function in this for years.
But I want to interject and say that just because you and I are talking, it makes for our practice and how we relate to people all that much more greater. And I used to tell well, I'm not used to. I share with my clientele or those who are being imparted into. I said, I want to let you know that there's something in therapy called self-disclosure. I'm real liberal with mine, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
how do you feel me sharing my stories with you when you're having sessions? And you know what they told me, Nikki? 100% of them. We love it because we know
Mhm.
you can relate to me. And I'm like, so having said that, that makes it all the better that we have gone through that. But spiritually speaking, what we may be dealing with internally or spiritually is that should we be doing this? Like,
Right. Are we qualified?
are we qualified?
Are
And
we
and, and, and,
qualified?
it, and it throws me to another space because I used to hear, because again, you both are licensed, ordained, reverend, pastor, all that. I used to hear pastors say, you can't be bleeding all over the people. If you ain't healed, don't talk to nobody. Oh, let me peel that back, church folk. Let me peel
Yeah.
that back. Right? Let me peel that back because what happens is there's a difference between bleeding on someone and being in the process of healing and helping someone.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
stop making that blanket statement, making somebody believe or putting them in bondage in a box that they have to be perfect before they go help somebody. Because if that be
Absolutely.
the case, they will never help anybody.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
and for those that do know scripture, when we talk about, being saved by the power of the blood and the power of your testimony, we give so many fake testimonies a lot of times in church. We give the sanitized version of what God did
I
and
want to thank
never.
God for my
Right.
car. No, nigga, thank him because your credit is jacked up and you used to steal
Thank
and you ain't get your
And you
license
still
right.
got the car. Right.
Tell that part.
Right. If we could tell the whole story, and what my clients would tell me, because I have been very careful with self-disclosure. I do it when I feel called to do it, but I have to be really careful because I've had people throw things back in my face. And, what I said was, but they would say things to me like, talk about this stuff from a different place. Like, I've had other therapists before, but when you talk about it, it's just something about the way you talk about it. And sometimes I want to tell them, girl, because I'm you.
Okay.
Like, sometimes
Straight
when
up.
I'm sitting with clients and I listen to their stories and it's such a parallel, I've gone back in my office and just cried because I'm like, how am I on this side of the chair? And it's not because I used to be. I'm still struggle sometimes. There are still days, when I get burnt out. And so trying to parent a child with mental health and now parent her children who also have mental health on top of me trying to deal with my own mental health while running a mental health agency and providing outpatient therapy.
Yes.
Like, I'm exhausted most times.
Nick, maybe we need to go out and have like some like getaway on an
We
island.
do. We need to fly somewhere. I'll meet
Straight
you,
up.
girl. Where you want to go? And we need a weekend.
Fast and in a hurry. Who was that who was stranded on the island? What was Tom Hanks that thing? I want to be stranded on an island
Castaway.
on
I do.
purpose. On purpose, right?
Just for a couple. I just need a couple days.
Yes,
You know.
it.
But I'm grateful for strength, and I ain't even gonna lie. I ain't even gonna hold you. There were times recently when I thought I couldn't do it. Like, it vacillates. It's like some days I feel like I'm killing the game, and I'll be like, I look at my babies, everybody's in bed by 9 o'clock, house is quiet, things is cool, and I'm like, oh, girl, you did it today. And there are other days that we are barely getting to 9 o'clock. We are struggling across the finish line. It's chaos. There's all kind of stuff happening, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. When my baby got called from the school last week, we were putting up Christmas decorations. Next thing I know, I get a call from the high school and I'm meeting with the police. What is going on? So it's the thing about mental health for both my children and my grandchildren is that you have to expect the unexpected. You have to learn how to manage and problem solve because honestly, your days are going to be unpredictable. You don't know always how that trigger is going to work. You don't know what you're about to walk into. And that was part of the anxiety for me I think my anxiety increased over the years
Yeah,
because
that's so funny that you said that. I've never had anxiety, and here lately, like in the last maybe
girl,
year, I was like, "Where did this anxiety come from? Like, what's going on?" Yes,
because you
yes,
never know what's going to happen in your day.
wait,
And,
like my
and
birthday. My birthday
yeah,
was November the 7th. I'm like, you know what? A sister get ready to go out here and take advantage of all these free stuff out here. I heard all these places got free. I went to the mall. I'm ready to get my mall free shopping for my birthday on. And I got a call from the school. Well, I didn't even get a call from the school. That's a whole nother. That's something I want to talk to you about too on another show. But I got a text from my
we didn't
baby.
talk about the school, honey.
Look,
I can tell you some things about that.
I get a text from my baby. Please come get me. I'm scared. She hit me. Whoa, birthday on hold. Can we rewind this? I haven't even celebrated it yet, right? That was last month. But I'm like, okay, time out. I'm jetting to the school to make sure I get my baby who's in the bathroom who texts me. And again, when I get to the school, they looking at me cockeyed because y'all want to know why I'm here. But you know why I'm here. But you mad that I'm here because she went in the bathroom and texted me so that I could be here. That's another show. Nikki, listen, like you said, we could talk on forever, but I want you, before we get out of here though, I want you to talk about I want you to talk about your your business and what you provide. Because I don't want you dropping some good nuggets. And I'm so glad we had this conversation because you're sharing so many impactful nuggets in here. And you over on in Virginia, I want people to get to you. I want people to, because they hear you, they hear your
Mhm.
real, they understand what you got on. I mean, what you got going on. They're listening. I want them to be able to find you. I need you to talk to me about the Greater Community Clinical Services. I need them to know you.
I will. Right before I get it, let me just say this one thing because I didn't also slip in the fact that in the middle of all these transitions, my grandson's father passes away during COVID. So now we're also helping them deal with grief. That's a whole nother story. I know you know that journey of helping these children deal with their grief. We're going to have to talk about that another day. But
Yes.
it's just that it's the layers. It's the
Yes.
layers. Okay, so Greater Community Clinical Services. I launched that maybe about 4 or 5 years ago officially. Kind of sat it down till after COVID. I am a virtual practice. I do accept Anthem, United Healthcare, Optum, Molina. It's another one in Virginia. I'm missing somebody. Sorry, guys. If you go on my website, I did
Which
send you
is,
the link to the website.
say it, but say it
But
to the people who are going to hear you on the radio. What's that website?
Oh, that's right, the radio. Okay. So the best way to find me on the radio and the easiest, go to psychologytoday.com
look,
and
look
look
at my girlfriend. She's talking about go to
and
psychology. That's my
yeah,
girlfriend.
go ahead and go to psychologytoday.com and pole in my name. My name is Nichole Phillips.
Spell Nichole, because you
N-I-C,
know it's 99,000 Nichole. Spell it, Nichole.
I know, N-I-C-H. Remember that H, OLEPHILLIPS. Okay. And when you get on there, you can actually hit me up through that website. It'll give you a profile. It's also a link to my website. So it's just the easiest for me to tell people to get to find me. So if you're looking for me and if you want to call me directly to make an appointment, my business line is 804-210-5508. That comes right to me. Give me a call. We can talk about, what you need and how I can support. But in addition to doing outpatient therapy, I also work with agencies and organizations to do workshops and groups around mental health, stress management, work-life balance, things of that nature and trainings. So if anybody is interested in something like that, you don't have to be in Virginia. I can provide that virtually to you guys as well. But that's probably the best way to get in contact with me is either to call me. My business Facebook page has been hacked, and Facebook, even though I've sent them my license, will not release it from whoever the hacker is. So I will have another one up and running by 2025. That's in the works right now, but you can look up Greater Community Clinical Services. The information is correct, but if you send me a message through that link, I can't get to it, but you can go on that Facebook page and get to me, and it'll have my information for my practice.
Nikki, I thank you so much. Like,
Thank you. This was fun.
It really is, and it was so good even catching up. Like, you talking, like you said, what, 30 years? I'm
32 years, girl. 32 years of life. We got to catch up for real though, off air.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, because you know life be life in, but I like
Life
to
be
say
life.
God be God. So listen, we will do that. Nick, just before we go though, just
Yep.
share some things. Maybe if it's some encouragement, inspiration, some jewels, just drop a few things to our listeners. Encourage somebody who is like, should I adopt? Should I not? Should I step in? Should I just leave it alone? Like, just encourage people a little bit to help them and help others as well, if that be the case.
Okay. My biggest encouragement to you guys, honestly, and this is not cliche, no matter how crazy things look, trust the assignment.
Mm,
Trust God and trust the assignment, whether it's an assignment to be a parent, to be an adoptive parent, to be a mentor, to be whatever. It's going to have difficult moments. There are going to be times when it looks like it's not going to work out. But if that is the assignment and the assignment on your life, you will be protected. You will be provided for, whether it's physical provision, mental provision, emotional provision, support. What this journey has taught me, honestly, and it has been crazy at times. And there are times that I thought I was going to lose everything. There was a period that I lost my job right after getting the kids. I mean, it has been wild, but God never, not one time failed me. And when I look back, I'm like, I don't even know how we still in this house. Like, I
mm,
don't even know how we are back at the place that we are. Just don't give up. And if you have a child that has mental health, do not personalize their
yeah,
struggles,
yeah,
right?
that's good.
Sometimes when my daughter would be going through, or I would have to put her in a hospital, or she would have a relapse or whatever, you look for places that you could have done something different,
Mhm.
right? But that is their struggle, and we are there to support and to love them through it
Yes.
and to provide them with grace and space to work through it, remembering that we are not responsible for the outcome,
Mm,
right? You're not responsible. I had to come to the conclusion a couple years ago, God, this is the child you gave me, but she is not mine.
yes.
She is still yours. And
Yes.
so even when I can't get to her, I gotta trust that you're gonna be all right. Even when I'm getting phone calls or she's running down the street doing crazy things, I gotta trust that you're gonna make it okay, because she belongs to you. And, you know, just love them. Just love them and be consistent. And even when you feel like you want to walk away, don't
Mm.
walk away. Don't
Nick,
walk away.
I thank you for that. Now, listen, I used to give a final thought, but I don't, it's almost like, you don't preach after a preacher's just preach their sermon. Let it lay. The only thing I'm going to add, because I'm not add, but confirm or agree with you on, is just love. Love
Just love
yourself
them.
and love the people that you got around you. It all is for a purpose. It all
Absolutely.
is on purpose, for purpose, and for a reason. And I thank you for saying that because you just encouraged me as well. That if I love, and love doesn't mean tolerate or be, a codependent or anything like that. Love means that, like you said, no matter what it is, that you
I'm
won't
here.
personal and that you will love them. You're going to give them, you're going to keep it straight, shoot it straight, make sure that they're responsible and accountable, but you will never stop loving. So, again, as a
Mhm.
final thought, when you love yourself as well, and you are learning that process even more through your own trauma and through your own challenges, it gives you the ability to love on others as well. And let me tell you something, when you love on purpose for purpose, it really is your purpose.
It
Say
changes
that.
things. It changes things, girl. It
Yeah.
changes things.
Nikki,
It
you
does.
have
And
now been inducted to the that's it, unboxed. The
Woo,
Being Unboxed family, baby, and we
I
love,
love
love,
it.
love you.
I love you too. And let me just say this last thing, because my daughter might hop on here and listen to this podcast at one point. I
Yeah.
want to tell the world that she's doing amazing.
Yes,
And
love
that the testimony through all of this is we're in a better place. We have healed from the craziness of the when you have to assume custody of someone else's kids, that can get shaky.
that. That's another
um
topic too.
and I asked God, when I knew I had to do that, please don't let me lose my daughter to save my grandchildren.
Yes.
And he has been faithful and healed those relationships. We are closer than ever. My baby is doing great. She's working. She's taking care of herself. She has been incident free for almost 2 years. Like
Yeah.
God is for about a year. God is good. And I just want to publicly thank God for where He has brought our family. And let that be an encouragement, y'all. If you are in the throes of it or in the mix of it, there is another side. Hang in there. Just hang in there, y'all.
Yes.
That's it.
You,
That's all.
baby. Thank
I
you.
love you.
Yay.
I gotta go get these babies as we speak.
Look, me too. All right.
All right, y'all. Love y'all out
Love
in
you too, baby.
Unbox World. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you.